Like me, are you able to figure out in seconds if a social media post was written using AI? These days, I don't even need a GPT detector to figure out the worst of them. Today's episode, we'll talk about creating AI generated content that is actually helpful, doesn't look like everything else, and still connects with your target audience. Welcome to the Tech Your Business podcast, where we break down technology so you can apply it to help your business make more money and do more in less time. I'm Peter Banigo. I'm the founder of Target ICT Ltd, which is a fully remote IT consulting firm, and I'm your host today. I think for the last 1 year or thereabouts, I'm sure you're sick of hearing about AI. AI is everywhere. The hype doesn't seem to be dying down. And since AI became mainstream some months ago, so many businesses have adopted it for their contents. That's the written content, the visual content, and even the videos. I remember there was Sora launched just a few weeks ago, which generates AI videos. So AI has been a great help to businesses as these days, especially with the economy and everything these days, we need much smaller teams to do much more than we could do before. But even at that, there is a problem. And that problem is the problem we usually have of contrasting quantity and quality. So while businesses can produce a lot more content than before, the thing is that most of the content that is produced looks and sounds the same as that which is being produced by millions of businesses worldwide. Apart from that, we all know that AI is known to lie, it's known to make things up, which is an issue which can affect the reputation, the integrity of your business. Then apart from that, there's also the issue of Google's update in March 2024, where a lot of websites which used AI content to spam the search results were de-indexed. And if you look at the Google guidelines, they'll be linked in the description. You'll see that the search engine has nothing against AI generated content, but they want you to create helpful, reliable, and people first content. So that's what this episode is going to talk about. AI content that won't offend the search engines and would also be beneficial to your end users and your business. So we have a win-win-win situation. So by the end of this episode, listeners should learn tips and best practices for using AI to generate or produce high quality, effective written content that doesn't necessarily look cookie cutter like the rest. So AI, while as a tool, it has come in very handy like every other tool. Like I mentioned before, it comes with its problems. So raw, like I say, raw AI content can easily be spotted through giveaway words like with Chat GPT, you have words like unlock, discover, and the rest, which is uses a lot. You have the liberal use of emojis, especially when you tell it to generate social media content for you. It just splashes emojis everywhere. Everything just looks like a salad. You have the sentence structure where it keeps making the same type of sentences over and over again. There are some things you see and you just know this has a 90% probability of being AI generated. And these things happen because even though AI content looks mostly convincing, it is machine generated. And as we all know, machines work according to programmed formulas put into them. So another challenge with using AI generated content is as a result of the fact that it generates content in almost the same way every time. So the writing style, the communication style is generic. So that means when you use AI content straight from the source, you end up losing or not developing a unique brand voice or style. And this ends up making your content sound generic or, like I said before, like everybody else's. So this might result in your brand not being able to develop any special connection with your clients or your prospects through your content, because what you've posted, they've seen it in different iterations everywhere. Another thing, like I mentioned before, is the way AI models tend to make things up. So the main principle of most of these models is that they work with the principle of text completion. So when the model starts a sentence, the priority is to complete the sentence by hook or by crook. So this is one of the reasons for hallucinations. They call this lies, these lies by AI models, hallucinations. And this is because they try to complete sentences they generate with things that might not necessarily be true, but sound logical or sound good to be included in that part. So imagine the impact on your business integrity or even on your clients if you publish obviously wrong data, especially if you're in there are these niches you call your money, your life, where you deal with the money of your clients, where your decisions have an impact on the life of your clients. Imagine using AI content and producing wrong data in niches like that. That's going to be a really big problem for you. So these things I mentioned, are some things you should watch out for when using AI content. But at the end of the day, I'm not saying that you shouldn't use AI content. I do. We all do, and it saves a whole lot of time. But there are ways to use it where it creates far better results than what you see out there. So let's get down to the juicy part of this episode, which is getting the most out of your AI generated content. The first thing I would say is that you shouldn't rely on AI to do everything for you. So let's take an instance where you want to write an article, a blog post, a blog article. If you go into your AI model and you tell it, write an article for this topic, don't ever expect to get a great result. Why do I say so? That's because a lot of the time, or in their current states, most AI models have difficulties generating long-term content. Like I said before, AI loses track, AI hallucinates. So a lot of time they start well and they lose track going into long-form content. So one thing I've seen is that AI is great for the preliminary parts of this article writing process. Things like overcoming writer's block by suggesting topic ideas, things like coming up with outlines, coming up with frameworks, things like that. It's also great at content research, like coming up with keywords, which you can confirm with your keyword research tool, things like similar topics you can write about that will complement old topics you already wrote about, just things like that. So rather than expecting your AI model to put out ready to use content immediately, what I have seen to work for this is, first of all, asking your model to generate an outline based on the topic you want to write about. So how this works is, rather than tell your model to write an article for you, you can tell it, okay, I want to write an article on this topic. The article would have this, and this that I have researched. These are some reference materials or articles that have covered this topic. And this is the goal or the aim of this topic, as well as the target audience of this topic. Please generate the best outline for this article. That's one thing that I've seen AI being really great at. So it generates an outline for you. You look through the outline and see if the outline covers all you want it to. You look through the outline and see the logical progression from the introduction to the body to the conclusion, if it goes in a way that is easy to read and understand. And once that outline is done, for me, I feel the best results you would get are gotten when, if you have a good content writer, you give them this outline and tell them to flesh it out manually, research manually, write in the style or the brand voice of your business. That's when you're going to get the best results as at with the current AI tools we have available now. But if you can't do that, though, if maybe you don't have anyone that's really great at writing or something like that, rather than have everything generated, rather than having the entire article generated from that outline, I would always prefer that you have your AI model generate the article section by section or bit by bit. So how this works is you take that outline it generated previously for you, then you tell it, let us write this article. We are going to write it section by section. I usually like adding, please don't make anything up. And basically that. Then you now paste in the first section, maybe the introduction and the first line. Tell it to generate that. So it generates maybe a paragraph or two for you. You look through that, it's okay. Then you paste in the next part or the next section. It generates that. You keep doing that till you get to the end of the article. And I've seen that doing this that way, it helps you end up with better results because it helps the model keep in track, helps it focus on that small bit of information rather than trying to process a large amount of information and generate long form content from that. It takes a bit more time, but you have much better results doing this. And I've also gotten better results this way. So while you're giving it these prompts or you're telling it what to do, you can also, like I mentioned before, add source material to your prompt, maybe research articles or other blog posts. You can also instruct it to stick to only the information that was provided in the source material, so it doesn't make anything up. So it just processes from what you give it and gives out the results. So I've also found out that it's important to remember to be specific about the results you want in your platform of choice. So one of the first, while learning about computers in school many years ago, one of the first computer concepts I learned about was garbage in, garbage out. AI is a computer. AI is computer built. So garbage in, garbage out applies to AI. If you put in garbage, if you put in wrong prompts, if you put in garbage generally, you're going to get garbage from it most likely. So once the first draft is done using the process I just talked about, doing it section by section, I'm sure you would see that the result actually makes a lot of sense and you might be tempted to just hit publish. But this too is not the end. I've also always seen that the best generated AI content is always human reviewed and edited. So once you have your first draft of your article ready, I would always say that you should have an experience. Okay, maybe you don't have a content writer. You should have a content editor. A content editor that's experienced, that knows your brand voice, that understands your business and everything. Have them go over this generated content, have them see that everything aligns with your brand, have them add real stories to connect with your reader, real stories that relate to whatever article you wrote. Have them add those stories so they connect with your reader emotionally. Have them add real statistics. I don't trust AI for statistics, so I'd rather have someone add the statistics manually. Then also review the article for accuracy to make sure everything mentioned is true. review it to make sure the brand voice, like I said, is consistent or congruent with your business. Review it for quality. Remember, I talked earlier about Google ensuring requiring content to be quality, and also make sure the content is like the rest of the content on your, we are talking about articles now, so on your blog, make sure it doesn't stick out. It doesn't, it's not obvious that this was just generated by AI compared to everything else. Like for me, when I write personally, I tend to explain. So I write and I usually use brackets. Someone pointed that out. I didn't know about that before. So when I'm looking over my AI generated content, I usually want it to write the same way I write. Then for social media content, like I mentioned earlier, make sure you remove all unnecessary emojis, because it's like I said, it makes everything look like a salad a lot of the time. Fact check. So if you see some of the older social media posts I put up when AI just came out, you'd see those emojis everywhere. Make sure you fact check all your information. I always say this: AI can lie very well. So make sure you fact check every paragraph. Um, Also, customize the content to your goals, customize the content to your audience. Then, yeah, that's basically it. So customizing the content is usually sorted out at the beginning, like I mentioned, because in the initial prompt, you would want to state that this content is meant to achieve this, it is meant for this audience, and things like that. So, yeah, so another thing I'll also say is, apart from text generation, we're talking about articles here, but apart from text, you can also use other AI content tools that generate images, AI content tools, like I mentioned just now, that generate videos. Add these things to your content to make it more engaging. Add images relevant to that content to make it more engaging. There are many tools you can use for images. There are tools you can use for video, but the AI world is just moving so fast these days. And if I mention any tool, I'm sure there'll be 10 or 100 tools better to use by the time you're watching or listening to this. So I think you just do a little bit of research: AI image generation tools, AI text generation tools, AI video generation tools, and research, find out which is best. Then the next thing I would want to talk about is having a process. I actually love processes, and a lot of the podcasts and a lot of the interviews I've been on, I always talk about that, because when I was younger, I used to forget things a lot, used to be disorganized. So that's when I realized I had to have processes to make my life actually sane. So if you've listened to this podcast long enough, if you followed me long enough, if you know me personally, you would know that I love processes. So processes help to ensure at the most basic level that you don't have to relearn, that your team members don't have to relearn every time they have to perform a task. So processes ensure that you get consistent or the same results every single time. That's why it's important that you should have processes for using AI in your business. These prompts that you used before that worked, these outline the process of, first of all, generating an outline, then writing section by section, then having a human edit it, add real stories and co. You should make an SOP out of that standard operating procedure. And this standard operating procedure should always be updated when you find out something works better. So that way you have this SOP, and whenever you want to generate new content, you can always just pick it up, and it prompts that worked before, prompts that worked perfectly for your case. You should save them in that SOP. Then you should also have checklists. Probably one great checklist will be having a checklist for what should be in place in any content, what should be removed, what should be checked for before you click on publish, before that content goes live. So things like that, you should have processes for things like that to ensure consistency, to ensure quality, and to honestly save a lot of your time, because there are simple things I've had to do, and I didn't have a process, and maybe a month, 2 months later, I want to do this thing again, and I've totally forgotten how to do it. I need to now relearn how to do it. That's a waste of time. So most times, if you're doing anything new, just it will take you a bit more time. But one thing I realized, that time you take will save you a lot of time in future. So just document it, document how you did it. It will help you when you have higher team members or you want to delegate this thing you're doing out. It will just make it so easy for you. Another thing that you would know that I love are numbers. There's this saying that numbers don't lie. And I know you agree with me on that. So you should always analyze, you should always monitor the performance of your AI generated content. And this is especially if you also have manually generated content. That way you're able to compare and contrast, look at the manually generated content, look at the AI generated content, check which works better in your content. You test different things. You test your titles, check what title gets you higher click-throughs. You test your structure, the intro and all that. Some people love having a brief TL, too long didn't read at the top of the articles to make sure people get the gist before they go into it. Some people start with an intro. Some people start with a story. Depending on, just test different types of structure to see what sticks, what works. Test different lengths of your article. Is it very long form or very short? Test different things to then you can keep what works. You can discard what doesn't work. And that way, that's the best way you can ensure that you get the best quality content every time. And lastly, continuously keep optimizing and improving your prompts. I know I mentioned this earlier, but this is worth mentioning again. Check your prompts, those prompts that give you the best results. Save them, keep them, and tweak them a bit. Tweak them, see if they can give you even better results. Because, like someone said, marketing is all about testing. And for me, life is all about testing. Life is all about testing, improving. Till you, I don't know if there's a best, but you can always get better. That's what I believe. So AI is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly powerful. But in its current form as it is now, it is not a complete replacement for human writers. And I believe a lot of businesses who are trying to replace human writers with AI, they're making a big mistake, because these days I see a lot of adverts from actually really big brands, and I just look at the text, and I know, oh no, that's that was generated in 2 seconds. It doesn't connect. It's just there. It doesn't really motivate me to click through. Doesn't motivate me to read through. Doesn't pique my interest. So yeah, so that's basically it. AI for now is not a complete replacement for human writers. Maybe we might get to a point where it would be, but till then, the best approach I have seen combines, this is March 2024, the best approach I've seen combines using AI models, AI bots, or whatever I call them, and yeah, combining them with human expertise. So with the right prompts, with the right oversight, with the right customization, with the right process, you can use these AI tools to streamline your content creation and still generate quality, useful content that would make your users happy, that will help your users, that would keep the search engines happy so you keep getting free traffic, and would also keep your business, keep bringing new leads to your business. So we've covered a lot today. I know I don't really like talking that much, but what do I do? We've talked about the danger of AI generated content to your brand. We've talked about never publishing the first draft of your AI content. We've talked of a better way to create AI content, which was the process I outlined. We've talked about the need for humans to edit and fact check your AI content. We've talked about the need for processes, the need for SOPs, the need for checklists, the need to document everything you're doing to save your time in the future and prevent you from relearning every time you need to perform a task. And we also talked about analytics, analyzing your traffic, your data, analyzing everything to find out what you can improve on. So I'm sure if you've gone over this episode, you've listened to this episode, you've picked up some tips on writing better AI generated content. So did this episode, did you get any value from this episode? If you did, please share with anybody you know. It would help. So probably you've seen someone on social media who posts AI content that doesn't get any engagement, who posts AI content with the emoji salad everywhere, emojis everywhere. Send this episode to them. And I hope it would help someone. It will help you. It will help someone else because that's the essence of this podcast. And also, if you want to be the first to know when we post more helpful content like this for your business, don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on, or watching it on. So we've talked a lot about AI in this podcast previously, but I feel 2 episodes would do a whole lot of good that would complement this episode. Would be episodes 2, where I talked about how your business can thrive in the in the current AI revolution, and also episode 9, where I talked about using chatbots and AI for your customer care. I know that will have to be updated soon, considering everything that's changed. But scroll through the podcast, check out those episodes, episode 2 and episode 9. Until next week, when I'm back with a new episode of the podcast, keep looking for new ways to take your business. Bye for now.